Almost. Played well, way better than they have in the past. But I was telling you guys in the pre-show, 0-5 for us sorry-ass Baltimore fans this weekend. About halfway through that game, it felt like it was going to be an awesome weekend. And then one by one, the losses started happening.
Yeah, I don't really give a crap about any of those other losses. I laughed my ass off, frankly, watching the Ravens lose to the Steelers. So, sorry about your luck. But
yeah. As
for the relevant game, boy, it felt like a missed opportunity, didn't it?
Somewhat. The entire time there was this air of when is Ohio State going to assert themselves? Like it kind of I felt that the whole game, like, here's when it happens. Here's when it happens. And it kept going for a long time. It didn't happen. And it didn't happen really till the fourth quarter, which is way better than it's been for Maryland in the past.
Yeah, and it did feel like Maryland had a vote in that, despite even some game-changing plays like that pick six and not getting the points before halftime and things of that nature, it did feel like Maryland really didn't give up, at least not till the very end, when Ohio State's talent quotient really, really took over. But yeah, it's a bummer, right? I mean, you really feel like going to halftime and through three quarters, really, you felt like Maryland had them where they wanted them. Certainly we're in a better spot than any of us would have predicted with being in Columbus and Ohio State being who they are and having a player of Marvin Harrison Jr.'s caliber who obviously started to show up, especially in that fourth quarter to put the game away. But, sometimes you just need to tip your cap. And I think Maryland played like a top 20 to 25 ranked team and did about what that level of team should do. That's what I think they are right now. And I think this game, in a lot of ways, to someone like me who looking at the first 5 games was like, I don't know what this team is because of who they played. I think playing that way against Ohio State, as long as they did, makes me feel a little bit better about where they are as a team and how good they are. And I do think
as a program,
they are pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's progress, right? I mean, every time they go in a game, a practically unwinnable game against a top 5 team in their own stadium and play as well as they did for 3 quarters, it's really just a bummer. The scoreline doesn't represent what the game actually was like. That's if there's one thing that pisses me off, it's that idiot AP voters and people who weren't paying attention are just going to say, 37-17, they kicked their ass, no big deal, as usual. Whereas anybody who actually watched that game is going to think otherwise.
Yeah, that wasn't a 20-point game by any stretch. I said going into it, I did a few interviews. They asked me what the key for Maryland. I said, you got to get win turnovers because when you have that big of a talent differential, you got to tilt the field in your favor with turnovers. Didn't do that. Didn't have any for the first time all year. And Talia needed to play his best game, and he played his worst game, which obviously much of that is related to how good the competition was compared to the other games. But
right,
the pick six was a big turning point.
That was
the missed opportunities.
They withstood that to a large degree. The biggest play, the game-changing play for me was the or was it second and 23?
Third, it was like 3rd and 28 or something.
Whatever it was, that was it.
That was the back. I think the pick six was when they lost. They had control.
It was when they took their boot off their throat.
Yeah, but even in the start of the second half, they got a touchdown to start the second half, Maryland, and were right back in the same spot. So they did withstand that.
I said you knew when they missed those early opportunities, when they went for it on 4th down, which I like the call to go for it. I don't like a shotgun, draw with the quarterback that everybody in the stadium, including the guy cleaning the urinals, knows that he's running anytime he comes into the game. I don't understand that call. And then obviously at the end of the half, you just can't make that mistake if you've been a starter as long as Talia is. That was bad. So you knew those were going to come back to bite them. There was no question about that. That's why at the time I turned to some friends. I was like, those are clear. They're going to regret those. And then Harrison just killed them. There was the one drive where he had the two big plays in a row, and they went right down the field really quick. And then obviously that absurd catch, which whether it was a catch or not, I don't know, on 2nd and 33. Those were the backbreakers. But I can't blame the defense at all. I thought the defense was great. They held Ohio State to fewer rushing yards than they've had in any game since 2013.
Yeah,
which is really
the lines. Stat. The lines is the best part of that game. That both lines from Maryland played very well against a top 5 team in the country, a team that's got 5-star and double-digit 4-star recruits every year. They held their own against that team, and were the better team really for the first half.
Yeah, somebody posted Ohio State has. Great. Go ahead, Jeff.
The offense was responsible for most of Ohio State's points. The pick 6 and the other pick, and then the late one where I think they went for it in their own territory, which was they had to make that call down 10 at that point. You had to go for it.
Yeah.
But Ohio State really just tagged on all those points from when Maryland was just running out of gas and giving them the ball in good territory. I thought defense was incredible, but couldn't run the ball. They're not a good running team. I think we can – they're not a bad running team, but they're not a good one. I think we can safely make that statement now. And same thing as in the past. Talia had his good moments, but in these big games, he has those couple glitches that end up costing you a lot of the time.
There were some bad glitches. The play at the end of the half, man, that's hard. It's hard to not be critical of that. That's really bad.
And we've had this ongoing debate on InsideMarylandSports.com message boards about whether Talia is what he is. Yeah, I believe is the topic title. And yes, he just is, right? He gets you there, but then when you need him the most, he does these just inexplicable things. The pick 6, remember we talked to Ty Felton last week, and I asked one of the differences about Gaddis's offense versus what Enos does, and a lot of it is about these reads where they're basically running these option routes, and the receiver and the quarterback have to be on the same page. Chambers and Leah were on the, Leah thought he was going inside. Chambers went outside based on where they were reading the coverage. Thing gets picked off and gets returned for a touchdown. That just can't happen, especially on like a 7-yard route. Like you just can't do that. So the thing at the end of the first half is just inexplicable. High school players shouldn't be doing stuff like that. And that they had the time with that timeout beforehand. Somebody say something like, hey, if the first read on that out isn't there, throw it in the stands and let's kick our field goal and get out of here happy. And I'll credit Maryland a little bit in that after the pick 6 and after the end of half thing, Larry's right. They came right back, got the ball back, scored a touchdown. They did not let those things break them. But as Jeff said, one after the other, they add up. And eventually Harrison made a couple plays and Ohio State remembered who they were. Ohio State had 73 4- and 5-star recruits out of their 85.
Yeah, right.
Come on. You need everything to go right in that type of game, and everything, not everything went right, but most things went right for 3 quarters, and Maryland just played themselves out of the game at the end, and it's just frustrating because we wouldn't care so much about this if it just wasn't another missed opportunity to take out one of those big bad monsters in the Big Ten East. So it's frustrating.
Reminded me of 2 games from Maryland history, Maryland in the past. I got one for you old heads. Ralph's first season in 2001. Maryland, I think they were 7-0, and they went to go play Florida State. And Florida State was the Ohio State of the ACC at that time. Every year in the top 5, winning championships. And Florida State was undefeated. And Maryland hung with them for 3 quarters. We're smashing them in the mouth. They hit Chris Wenke. Was it Chris Wenke at that? I forget.
Yeah.
I think it was Wenke. They hit Wenke so hard. Nowadays, they get kicked out for what they did, but they knocked him into oblivion. And they were out there balling. for 3 quarters, and then Florida State discovered who they were, and they won by about the same margin.
Yeah, was that when Anquan Bolden scored like 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter or something? I mean, it was another thing where like a all pro, a future all pro receiver just went nuts on them, and you're just like, what do you even do about that? I mean,
I know,
especially being down Tarheeb still like they were. I mean, Corey Coley, maybe don't line him up 1-on-1 on a future number 1 pick. I don't know, but it's like Jeff said, it really is hard to blame the defense. I know we're talking about a game where they gave up 37 or 30, I guess, in this case, directly. But, I mean, the defense did as well as you could imagine. And, again, I feel better about the defense in a lot of ways after watching this.
Yeah, I thought they'd get pushed around up front. They didn't get pushed around. I mean, Ohio State, despite all their talent, their offensive line hasn't been great this year. And they didn't have Travion Henderson, so those are real factors, but they didn't get pushed around. The DBs were pretty good for most of the game, and then they kind of, because record stats weren't very good at halftime at all, and then he tagged a lot on at the end. Brian Williams I think he's a star. Like, what he's done with his defense is incredible. They were literally, when I went back and looked at it before last year, pretty much every single year in the Big Ten, they were 13th or 14th in defense, points allowed, yards allowed, and he's got them in the middle of the pack, with a good but not loaded defense. They got some good talent there, but it's not like it's loaded. So they and without Tarheeb still their best player at a position where they really don't have any other guys who are proven, to be really good. So
few comments in the chat room about Tarheeb. Here's one from our boy Antoine Cuff, who's here every week. Thank you, Antoine Cuff, for coming and participating. I said it reminded me of 2 games. The other game it reminded me of 2 years ago against Penn State, when Maryland, again, for 3-ish quarters, felt like toe-to-toe, maybe even better for some of it. And then they could not stop Sean Clifford throwing jump balls to Jahan Dotson, and it was that combination that got like 75% of their offense. Clifford to Jahan Dotson. And this that's a James Franklin special, isn't it? To just chuck it deep and hope your guy makes a play or get a PI. It was just like that though, wasn't it? Like with this, except this time Kyle McCord and Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah. It was like one play, one thing that they couldn't stop, and that was the difference in the game. Yeah,
just like they went a little conservative too after they took the 10-0 lead. Like, it's very easy to understand if you're in the coach and you're in that position and you're thinking, we're going to shock the world. I don't want to make a mistake. Let's start to play it a little more conservative now that we have it. But when you're going for that, you just got to keep throwing haymakers until you're up 30 points. You know what I mean? And I felt like the play calling got a little conservative after they started off looking pretty good. I think Gaddis has definitely been an upgrade over Enos, so I'm not bashing him. His play calling, I think, has been fairly good overall, but I didn't see as many deep shots after they took the big lead.
Well, and that fourth down, when they ended up running 4 times and then running again on that 4th and 2 or whatever it was, is just absolutely inexplicable. I mean, I was not a huge Josh Gaddis fan coming into this. I thought he might be a downgrade from Enos, but he's won me over a little bit. And certainly the scripted drives that we had starting the game and coming out at the second half were really good. And he called a pretty good game overall, but some things were just absolutely ludicrous calls. I mean, the Billy Edwards thing out of the shotgun, I was like, okay, we're bringing in Billy. It's 4th and less than a yard, and they're going to do the push play. Like, I don't like it, but I understand it there. You cannot explain to me in the fucking world what you were doing with Billy in the shotgun and still running out of that. Like that's unless you were going to throw it.
Hand it to Littleton and Hemby and go with whatever the results are. You'll live with. You got at least.
I can live with the read option there. I can live with you with throwing it. Fuck it. It's Ohio State. Take your chances, right? I can live with that. I cannot live with whatever the thought process was had. And Loxley didn't look like he was very happy after that either. So
that was a dud.
Maybe some of that gets.
They really need to break Talia of this habit he has of spinning out, reverse spin out whenever the pressure comes. he does that same little reverse spin move every time.
And somebody's going to murder him because they're going to see it coming.
Well, not only that, but the second pick was because he did that. He did that spin out. So then you're rolling to your left. It's harder to throw going left. And he ran out of field. They're all rushing him left, and he threw the pick, the bad pick. So he just can't seem to. I mean, that's just ingrained in him to like an incredible extent to where it's automatic. He does that. He can't break it. I'm amazed that teams haven't figured that out, and immediately, kind of anticipated it and come from that side. But
I'm telling you, dude, some
guy that people hype him up as not, that guy.
I'm telling you, some defensive end is going to see enough of that on tape and is going to fucking murder him this year when he tries to do one of that, and he's going to spin right into him. And I'm scared to death of that. And I hope I'm wrong, but and with the general point, I completely agree. And I think part of it is Talia is just not wired to lose the battle to win the war. He wants to win every play, but
right.
you just can't. I mean, it's not how football works.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, roll into that short side across his body with two guys, trying to squeeze that ball in there, man. You just gotta throw it away, punt the ball. You're winning. It's frustrating. But again, the good and the bad of it is that he is who he is. He is a good college quarterback who makes Maryland way better than they almost certainly would be without him. But he just kind of kills you in these games where you need him to be something bigger than that. Yeah. And
the touchdown run he had, I give him credit. That was a really nice run on the scramble for the touchdown. But then there was another one where he scrambled left, and Jay Sean Jones got open, and it should have been a touchdown. And I couldn't tell if from my angle.
Multiple reads he missed, right? That wasn't the only one.
What's that?
There were multiple reads he missed. That wasn't the only one.
Yeah, but he scrambled and he was past the defense. I couldn't tell if Jay Sean got turned around weird to where it was somewhat his fault that he couldn't adjust, or if I didn't get to see a replay, or if Talia.
I did that one. Talia needed to throw. He needed to throw that ball inside, and he threw it outside. I think because it was another one of those where he was rolling to his left side, and he just couldn't quite get himself square enough to do it. But there were a lot of missed opportunities out there. And again, I feel good about the fact that Maryland had missed opportunities because they made those opportunities, right? Jay Sean beat a 4 or 5 star corner to get open like that. Talia was able to get out of the pocket and present the possibility to make a play. These are good signs. We didn't know that Maryland could do this against a quality opponent, let alone one of the best teams in the country. So we sound like we're just complaining, but there is good news here that Maryland got themselves in these positions to begin with. So I feel like if you're starting to look at the rest of the season based on what you saw here, and if just looking at the first 6 games as a total, now that we're halfway through, you've got to be really happy with where Maryland's at.
Halfway through, man. That's so sad. We go all year, 6 months waiting, cannot wait for football to come back, and it's halfway over. What happened?
It goes by so fast. I don't understand how it goes by so fast.
We got some good questions in the chat. I want to bring these up. Before we do, though, I want to remind everybody we are going to be doing a giveaway today. So stick around. Later on in the show, we're going to have everybody type into the chat. We'll give you something to say. You type it into the chat, and we'll select one person who's going to win 3 free months premium subscription to Inside Maryland Sports. You'll get all the inside information. You'll be able to go to maryland.247sports.com, get all the articles, participate in the chat, all that kind of stuff. So stick around for that. That's coming up later. I'm going to show you a couple of good questions in here. You were speaking about Brian Williams, and this was on my mind while you were saying it. Who is going to poach Williams? Can they keep him?
Well,
they got Big Ten money now.
Not forever.
Yeah.
Some Southern programs have definitely tried to come after him. That's Loxley's number one priority every offseason, besides recruiting, is keeping Brian Williams. Eventually somebody will come after him for a head coaching job, and then he's gone, obviously. So
but that'll be a lower level, right? That'll be a G5.
Man.
Yeah, I would think. Yeah.
No one at a Power 5 is going to give him. I mean, maybe, but I doubt.
No, but somebody will come after him before long because he's a dual threat. You know,
Can
he
they
can
get
coach
another
and
year?
recruit. He's the best coach among the assistants and probably their best recruiter. You hope
they
so.
get
You never
another-
know. It just depends. I think so. I think he really likes it there. I think him and Locks have a really good relationship. He's comfortable, but you never know. Some you know, he's from the South. If some Florida school throws a huge bag of money at him, you know, you never know.
Yeah. And another question that was pretty good. That was Big Ikimo. Thank you, Big Ikimo. And this is from Morgan Zaleski. Who is the QB next year? That's a good question because there's two main candidates on the roster right now, but you've got the portal as well. So what do you foresee there?
Yeah, that's going to be a good competition, you know, unless they get somebody. I think the only way you get somebody out of the portal probably is if you think you're getting a can't miss stud, and then you'll see at least one of these guys probably transfer. Otherwise, you know, it's a 50-50 battle between Cam Edge and Billy Edwards. Edwards is more of that, you know, gritty, moxie, tough guy, leader, more so than a guy, you know, who's going to sling it around like Talia. Cam a bit more, not as much of a runner. So, you know, there's been a good amount of buzz about Cam Edge looking really good in camp. He played for like a few minutes of one of the blowouts. And, you know, you could see it a little bit. So that should be a really good competition.
Yeah. Well, projections for the rest of the year. Let's look ahead to Illinois. Let's look at the projections. What do you guys, Illinois, we all think should be a Maryland.
That would be a disastrous loss. I don't see any way. Illinois is very bad. They're in the conversation for worst team in the Big Ten.
I actually did drop my percentage for Illinois like 0.05 just because of the hangover potential, and the weather looks absolutely ass this weekend. So that worries me a little bit about against these untalented smash mouth Big Ten West schools, but they need to win that. They need to win that game. I don't even care about style points at this point. You just need to go in there, win the game, and get to your bye week so you can get healthy, and then the, you know, sky's still the limit after that.
Jeff, you didn't give me your national ranking for the Terps this week. What do you think?
25.
Okay. So look at this. People who are listening, I'll just say the numbers for you. Hoagie and I have different percentages for each game, but both came out at exactly 7.85 wins. So I really want to go higher than that. And the analytics sites are way higher than I am for both Penn State and Michigan. And I just can't bring myself to go higher than 10%. I just don't think it's going to happen. They're both, I feel like it's going to be Ohio State repeat. You guys have more faith. You guys are both over 8 wins. You're at Jeff at 8.15, Paul at 8.2. All the analytics sites are higher. 8.54 at ESPN, FPI, 8.47 at Massey, 8.26 at Team Rankings. And then, as you know, we love this where they give out the percentage chance of each record. So 8-4 and 9-3 are just about 50-50 chance there. Both of them just over 32% shot, with an outside shot at 7-5 or 10-2. And 7-5 at this point would be an absolute disaster disappointment.
No,
that'd be horrible.
No,
it would. It would.
It wouldn't be great, but it wouldn't be a disaster.
Pretty close to a disaster.
I think it would be,
given the schedule, given the remaining schedule.
It wouldn't feel good for sure. But like, I'm a Maryland fan. I'm not deeming myself too good for a 7-5 season. Sorry.
At this point, you have. This is their chance to.
I don't have to do nothing. I've seen this program for 40 years, 43 to be exact, and they're generally terrible. So,
but this is the season they have the schedule set up and the record going into it where they can do it. This is their opportunity. If they don't, to me, that's a disaster. They are going to be favored in 2 games. They're going to be 50-50 in 2 others. You got to get to at least 8, in my opinion.
I agree they should. I'm just, again, I will take my dinky late December bowl game with a smile because it's Maryland football, and we could be very well staring at another 4 wins next year if the quarterback situation doesn't work out. So I mean, I'm just like, you guys have hope and expectations and things of that nature. I am too beaten down for that kind of crap.
Yeah,
I think that to be more serious about it, if you look at those percentages with 32.1% for 8-4, 32.4% for 9-3, I would put the over under for success of a season right now at like right on that 8 number or 8.5. I mean, you really should look at this schedule and get 9. I mean, that's if you want to be serious and pretend this isn't Maryland, which has been a disaster program my entire life pretty much. Yes, they should look at the schedule with the talent they have, and they should win 9. And hopefully one of those would be one of the better teams. And I would take a slip up against one of the crappy teams if they got one of the Michigans or Penn State at home. But
if I'm offered that 9-3 and one of the wins is against Michigan or Penn State, I'm taking it instantly.
Absolutely, without even.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Or even if you gave me the 9-3, knowing we would lose to Penn State and Michigan, I'm taking that too.
Me too. Me too. Yes, me too.
People don't seem to understand the direness of this program in the past decade and a half. Like, it's bad. This is a chance to do something nice, potentially get to 10 wins. I don't care how you get there. Just get there.
10's going to be – I just can't – I hope I'm wrong. Michigan is starting to assert themselves in a way that just seems like it just feels like it's going to be a painful game to watch for Maryland.
If you assume that they lose to Michigan and Penn State, which is what obviously statistically the probability says, you really just are looking at the rest of these games are either heavily favored or you're basically a coin flip. You know, Nebraska looking like a coin flip to me just because it's at their place, even though they're not very good. So you got to win all but one of those. It's probably unrealistic that you're going to roll. You know, you could because none of these teams are very good. When you look at Northwestern, Illinois should both be gimme wins. Rutgers and Nebraska, both on the road, could be sneaky. So win all of those but one, and you're still in pretty good shape with a chance to get a win in a bowl game. Obviously, it's going to be a little less fulfilling to win 9 games if one of them is not one of the big 3. But, you know. It's just
we already talked about this. The way things are set up this year, you've got 3 top 5 teams in the country. And then nobody else within the top 40.
There's no middle ground.
Except maybe Wisconsin, but they don't play Wisconsin. So it's like, it's hard to win that game.
It's just so hard to play in this conference the way it is. And I think in a way, and I've been arguing this for a while, I think that bringing in those West Coast teams is going to unbunch this group up to some degree. Even though some of those are good programs, you're still not going to have like 6 top 10 teams in the Big Ten every year. That it does not happen. It is not possible. So I think anything is better than this current situation. I mean, Maryland got really lucky with the way the schedule landed this year, but it feels like never again is it going to be like that.
Well, we get into recruiting. We got a good question
in a sense, they got lucky because the schedule is very soft overall, and so it gives them a chance to just pile wins easier than they ever have in the Big Ten. And then on the flip side, like we were discussing, they got unlucky because they're one big breakout year where they have their best team and they have all these easy wins. The 3 big dogs are all like elite. There's not one of them, Penn State or whoever, Michigan, who's having a slightly down year and is ranked like number 20 or something like that. So it's easier to tag that win on. So like the gap between the bad team, you know, those 3 teams and everybody else on their schedule, like Larry said, there's absolutely no middle ground whatsoever.
No middle ground.
I've never seen a schedule quite like it.
We have this good question from Carib. I suppose that's how you pronounce it. And says, what is going on with our run game? Thought we would be better. I did too. And they're not bad. They're just not. It's kind of reverse of last year. Remember last year, everybody thought the receiving core was going to be amazing with Demas and Rick and Jarrett. And then the running game kind of took over a little bit, was the surprising unit. And now this year it's kind of reversed where everybody thought the running game was going to be the leading factor with Hemby and crew. And it's been the reverse.
Well, we knew the offensive line was going to be a bit of a struggle, and they pass blocked pretty well. Their running blocking has not been great. I thought their gap scheme and some of their zone stuff was pretty good against Ohio State, and certainly better than you would have expected. Now, obviously, they seem to have much more success to that when they were really throwing the ball well in the first half and most of the third quarter as well. But yeah, it's not great. I think Hemby just isn't right, and I don't know why he's playing if he's not physically right, because obviously Littleton and McDonald as well have really shown that they can handle the load. But certainly something is off. And with the passing game, they seem like they're doing quite well. It's just the damn drops. Another 2 huge drops by Prather and Felton last week too. Absolutely murdered Maryland.
Yeah,
and they just cannot be dropped.
Both those guys have drop issues. Maryland leads the Big Ten in drops, I read on Twitter yesterday, which isn't really surprising. I mean, they've been good, the receivers, but that's definitely an issue.
Just cannot happen. And that's killing Talia, because Talia internalizes that stuff. Like that's part of what I think gets him into a little bit of trouble. So,
and it stalls the drives and puts them in bad down and distances, and then they panic and the whole thing.
Yeah, and you could see once Maryland.
They haven't gotten the ball to Deiches lately. It feels like they haven't really gotten the ball to Deiches. He had a really good start. He was leading all FBS tight ends and receiving, and I can't imagine he's had – I don't know what he's had the past few weeks. It hasn't been much. And
they've been spreading the snaps out.
Colby McDonald looked excellent, and then he hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities since then.
I think with the tight ends, they've been spreading those snaps out quite a bit because Howard's been playing a lot. And frankly, his run blocking is just an absolute disaster right now. Like, I don't even know if you can play him on running plays, even though he's a big guy. He's whiffing on blocks, and he broke up. Him whiffing on blocks blew up a couple plays specifically in that game. But I know that he's been playing a lot. Rico's been getting snaps. Like, I don't know if it's just part of, Loxley's been known to kind of spread snaps around to keep guys fresh, but certainly you would have expected Deiches to have more of a role, especially when guys like Chambers and some of these other, Shalik Knotts and guys like that on the receivers have not really made themselves, part of the game plan yet. So I don't know what's going on there, but it's a little hard to complain too much about the passing offense as a whole, given how they performed.
All right. Let's switch gears into recruiting a little bit. But before we do that, let's do the first part of our promotion. We're going to need everybody to type into the chat. Type my headline, Maddie Traore Mafia. Type that into the chat. Maddie Traore Mafia. We'll let you go if there's some bad spelling there.
No, you better spell it correctly. It's right there in front of you.
Maddie Traore Mafia. Type that into the chat. Later on at the end of the show, we'll give everybody some time to enter. We will select one of you to win 3 months free premium for Inside Maryland Sports. Type Maddie Traore Mafia into the chat. Okay, Jeff, we had some football recruiting. We had a commit.
Yeah, I hope I'm saying his name right. AJ Szymanski. I'm not even going to try, but younger brother of Trevor Szymanski, the freshman who they got last year out of the Baltimore area. Another offensive lineman. I think they're going to play a 10 offensive lineman lineup in a couple of years because I think they have like 8 or 9 of them committed now, which clearly they need. They need bodies badly there. They're making up for some misses in the past couple of years on the line, so they just keep loading up. They actually just offered another JUCO offensive lineman the same day as he committed, so it's really incredible. But the class is getting pretty full now. I think they're number 12 or so in the Big Ten. Not great, but not surprising. Any 4-star types for the most part are the guys that they're probably going to flip closer to signing day. So very clear that what the need that they've been trying to address all throughout this cycle is the offensive line. Now I think you could use a few guys on the defensive line, and then best player available come signing day, depending on who you're able to flip.
Are they mostly done with sort of regular recruiting, and now they're holding spots for kind of elite wish list players, and then whatever they don't get, then they supplement through portal and that kind of thing?
I think that's it. Yeah, they, for the most part, the normal guys, it's almost all guys committed elsewhere. There's a few elite local guys. Aaron Childs, the linebacker from Good Counsel, is committed to Florida. Dylan Jones, also from Good Counsel, running back, committed to Wisconsin. Braden Lee from Flowers, CH Flowers, right up the road, committed to South Carolina. He's one I pay very close attention to. And there's a whole bunch more. We've written about them on the site. We'll continue to report on them, but for the most part now, it's guys committed elsewhere who will probably make their final decisions closer to signing. Although there is a guy or two I've written about recently on the site that could flip to Maryland before then.
Hey Jeff, how are we feeling about Maryland's current commits? Are they solid at this point, or?
Yeah, I think it's solid. I mean, because of the offensive line focus, like offensive linemen are like gold. There's supply and demand is so far out of whack that the 4-star guys, if you're Maryland, you're just not going to get them very often. So you got to trust your eyes and go for guys. And Loxley's been really good at that. He's an excellent scout. He finds a lot of gems. And so considering how many offensive linemen they have in the class, and again, how hard it is to get those blue chip guys at that position, I wouldn't worry about the class ratings too much, but obviously you want to get some difference makers. Higher rated guys are more likely to be difference makers. So they definitely need to layer on some star power closer to signing day.
Got a little uptick in viewers right now. Just a reminder, we are doing a promotion. Type into the chat, Maddie, Traore Mafia. It is my headline, in case you're wondering how to spell it. Type it into the chat. We're going to be giving away 3 free months of Inside Maryland Sports. So just do that as just a reminder. You said, Jeff, the most intriguing thing about what you just said, you're expecting another flip. Are you going to announce who that might be, or is that something people need to be on premium to figure out?
I got to show a little leg and pull it back every now and then. So I'm going to keep that.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to see my hairy legs, but there's 2 guys who I've written about in the past week or so who I feel very good about their chances with, and we'll continue to report on them.
Yeah, so getting those 3 free months would be very important if you want to know who that is, or just subscribe, buy yourself a year. It's very cheap. Not how much is it a year, Jeff? Not very much, right?
I mean, it works out to like if you do an annual, about $8 a month, so you're paying like 30 cents a day.
Yeah, and you get to know who the 4-star flip is going to be.
It's like less than the Chipotle burrito these days.
Yeah. Football recruiting going solid right now. A lot of excitement. Finally getting some 4-stars, some flips. Basketball recruiting.
Very quiet.
What we got, Jeff? Yeah, what do you got?
Tumbleweed.
Every week betting.
I'm gonna start treating the basketball recruiting portion of the show like I treat the non-rep portion of the show, because
it's gonna tune out.
It just listening to it makes me madder. So I should just like cut off my video feed and just go do something else for 5 minutes.
Oh man, we're still in the same spot.
That's not all because they're whiffing left and right. There have been a couple guys they didn't get. But a big part of it also is they're just not going after that many guys because they only have 2 scholarships open. So it's not like you have this long list and this guy's visiting and you know what I mean? It was a very small list. One they backed out on, Boogie Flan. They decided not to continue to pursue him. Another Jaden Mustaf was kind of a late push because Mike Jones had arrived. We knew throughout that was probably unlikely. Matt Hodge was the only one really you felt like they should get, who they didn't. I think that's really stung for a lot of people. So now it's Derek Queen and Afosa Oliogu, really, assuming Oliogu, as I've said a million times, assuming that he reclassifies to 2024.
Getting those 2 would be pretty good, though. That would be a really good class, actually.
It would be a great class. That'd be better than they've gotten 2. They haven't gotten 2 guys that highly rated maybe since I've been doing this in one class. So it would be a great class. Both of them are 5 stars, but
yeah. We got a question from our boy Antoine Cuff. I like this. Why are we projected by we? He means Maryland. Why is Maryland a projected top 25 team and an 8 seed? Getting an 8 seed would be a major disappointment. Yeah, if they're
Well,
top 25, they better not be an 8 seed.
For one, because predicting tournament seeds is even dumber than a preseason ranking, frankly.
Yeah, but it's at the end of the year, they're in the top 25. They will get better than an 8 seed.
Maybe it depends. If it could be one of those seasons
People
where
focus so much on the portal.
Well, yeah, and you worry about with the Big Ten
People
being what it's been, like where they just beat the crap out of each other. So like you might be a top 25 team with 9 or 10 losses or 12 losses even, like who knows? So you could have a situation where the tournament committee looks at you differently than the voters do. We've had a few times that type of thing has happened, but I would that's not a thing that would concern me about this team. It's certainly the things you're hearing behind the scenes, as well as what you're reading about that Willard has even talked about openly at the Big Ten Media Day. It does feel like this team is going to be pretty good. How good, whether it becomes a, kind of an 8 or a 8 to 10 level seed team, or a team that can really compete with Michigan State and Purdue for the league title in a 2-3-4 scenario, we'll have to see. But
voted number 3 preseason poll is way better than what they've had the past few years. So that's pretty nice. At least projection wise and outlook is better than it's been.
Yeah, I mean, from what I can tell, it seems like a lot of people see it somewhat similarly, where Michigan State and Purdue are kind of in that top tier by themselves, with Maryland and a couple schools behind them, and that's fine. Again, a lot of this preseason stuff, you're really just kind of guessing because you don't know how teams are going to gel with portal players. You don't know whether freshman recruits are going to show up and play up to their rankings or what have you. But it's certainly, from everything I've seen publicly and from what we've heard privately as well, I think this team's going to be pretty good. Can they shoot the basketball? That probably tells me the difference between whether they're going to be a top tier team or just another team that makes the tournament.
Yeah.
Julian Reese to fix the foul thing too. I think that's an underrated aspect. He's got to get better at staying in the game. You don't have that much behind him, really. Although Swanton Rogers sounds like he's made some strides. I think he'll be capable of playing some minutes. And then Larry's guy, Matty Traore, they like him. You wouldn't think this is really possible since he has barely played any college basketball and he was raw for him to come in and do this. But they seem to think he's going to play like 10, 12 minutes a game.
And then next year, he's going to be a major factor.
When you see him in person, he is a stud. He is a legit 7-foot stud who can shoot a little bit. He's not a short thing. He hasn't produced a ton anywhere he's been, but he's going to be interesting to watch. But, I think that the bench could be better than people realize. The one thing that just has got its sting, if you're Kevin Willard, is Ian Martinez. Was just the perfect energy guy off the bench. Toward the end of last season, he was all of a sudden becoming a really good shooter. He's maybe their best perimeter defender. And he just rolls out at the last second without warning anybody, and ends up at Utah State, where he has to sit a year before he can even play because he's transferred twice. If they had him back coming off the bench, that would have been that was a big loss. That was a big loss. But I guess that's old news.
That kills me inside, man. He was just perfect for this bunch. Just to add that little bit extra energy, that kind of guy who can play on the wing and just be a pain in the ass defensively. That's the only thing they're missing now. They're talking about Geronimo being able to play more of a 3 than more of a big man, despite his size. We'll see. But man, that kills. I think that's, if you're talking about the type of player that would turn them up a notch into that top tier, he would have been it. So that sucks. But portal is what the portal is, and that's just life now, I guess.
You were talking about Efiosa Oliogu. Did I say that right? We had a question about that. Is there a deadline to reclass to the 24 that comes from Del Boca Vista, Jeff?
No deadline. It's a personal kind of situation. Guys do it late in the game all the time. It's not like an official kind of scenario. So no, but again, everything I've heard, it's very likely that he will. You never know with an IL, or like Derek Queen, for instance. It seemed like he almost definitely would last year, decided not to. seemed like a strange decision because he could start making money and whatever. Ended up seems like it worked well for him because his game got so much better. His stock jumped. So there's no telling for sure, but I think he's likely to, but there's no deadline.
Yeah, it's worth keeping in mind a lot of these real high-profile guys are all held back somewhere along the line, so they're generally a year older than their class. That's why, a kid can just choose to decide, well, I'm going to go to college now, as opposed to, them all being Rhodes Scholars who were just that far ahead in high school. So
they're going back to their original class usually.
Yeah.
It's time for Paul's favorite segment of the show. But before we do that, two things. Please give us a like and a subscribe. We're still trying to build up our subscribers on this. It really helps us out. And we're going to be doing lots of cool shows. We got a really special show coming up during the off week you guys do not want to miss. It's not going to be a normal show. We're going to be shooting somewhere else. It's going to be really cool. Subscribe so you know when that's happening. Do us that favor. Give us a like. And a reminder, one last time, type into the chat, Maddie Triore Mafia, my headline under my name up there on the screen, and you will be eligible to win 3 free months of Inside Maryland Sports. We'll be doing that random drawing just in a little bit at the end of this episode. So type that in, Maddie Triore Mafia. And now it is time for our boy Wheels and the non-revs report.
Hey everyone, this is Wheels with your Inside Maryland Sports non-revenue sports report. Men's and women golf going to lead off there. They both head down south this weekend on Sunday to take place in fall tournaments. Men are heading to Wake Forest, with the women headed to Tennessee, again, both on Sunday. After a huge and monumental win against number 16 Minnesota, a place where the Terps had never won before, the women's volleyball team won that match.
Nice.
They then fell to Indiana last week. They look to get back into the win column and rebound against Northwestern on Friday in Evanston. Ninth-ranked field hockey team keeps plugging along. After beating American last week 1-0, the Terps head to Ann Arbor on Friday to take on the 16th-ranked Michigan Wolverines. Men's soccer finally got into the win column last week with 2 big wins. The first was a 1-0 win against Bowling Green at home. And then they had a huge win last night against Villanova with a 6-4 win. They head to East Lansing on Sunday to take on Michigan State. Finally, women's soccer continues to struggle. They lost 1-0 to Rutgers last weekend. They are currently riding a goalless streak of 6 games. They're looking to at least hit the back of the net against Nebraska in Lincoln on Thursday. And that's your non-rev sports wrap on IMS. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Maybe the soccer team
I don't care how bad you are as a team. How do you not score a goal in 6 games?
It's soccer, Jeff.
I know it's soccer.
That's
but 6 games, 6 straight
That's
shutouts.
still pretty crazy.
Bad, but
I mean, that's really – and of course, Maryland –
That's why I don't watch, so I understand what you're saying. That's why it bores me, because of the low scoring and all the ties. But 6 games without a goal seems impossible.
Of course, all the men's soccer team decided to put up 6 last night, and after not scoring basically all season long. So –
well, maybe they still got a chance to turn it around and sneak into the tournament here.
Variance, man. Soccer's a weird game like that.
Yeah.
So we did promise some 2025 basketball recruiting, and we skipped past that. So we
did?
Yes, we did.
Did you put that in the thread or something?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Jeff, 2025 basketball recruiting. I got something coming up for you guys in a minute on that anyway, but go ahead, Jeff. You might steal my thunder, but go ahead.
Very active. I mean, they're recruiting. The 25 class locally is really good. They must have 10 guys that they really like, I would say, in the area. Most of them with committable offers. Most of them have visited recently. So now it's a matter of closing. You want to close Cam Ward from Largo, probably the top guy overall, I would say, on their board. Nick Lewis, point guard from Gonzaga. Caden Lewis, point guard from Sidwell Friends. Chance Mallory, point guard from down in Charlottesville, who they are going head-to-head with Virginia on. And so there's a whole bunch of other guys. Most of them have been to Maryland recently. The staff, actually, I wrote on the site today, if you're listening live, or yesterday, if you're listening to the podcast, about their travels on the recruiting trail. They went and saw a lot of guys, including some new names that they really like this week. So 25 is going to be a bigger class. There's going to be more vacancies to work with. And now it's a matter of ending this commitment drought, getting one of these guys to commit to kind of get the ball rolling and build a little bit of momentum because, clearly that's lacking recently.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they got to get a point guard out of that group, right? And they got to feel pretty good about getting one of those 3 or 4. Obviously, with the portal and everything else, you never quite know what the roster is going to look like, but they got to at least get one big, and then where do you go from there?
Well, like you said, point guards, we're talking about 25 still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
24 just is what it is at this point, right?
Yeah.
You get one of those
right.
2, and that's all it's going to be.
24 is basically queen or bust. Obviously, you want Oliogu too, but it's.
And then he could end up in 2025 as well, right? There's a chance of that still.
It's possible. And so 25, I mean, point guard's the biggest thing, but I do know that they really have been impressed with Deshaun Harris-Smith, his point guard skills. So if they weren't able to get the guy they wanted, I wouldn't be surprised if they rolled the dice or went for a combo or shooting guard instead. That probably won't happen, but I think they feel like he's capable. And then, you need front court. A lot of it depends on what Julian Reese does. My gut is it's a little more likely that he's gone after this year than returning. I think it's
that's better language about that than we've heard from you in the past.
Yeah,
a little more likely that he's gone so you're telling me there's a chance, right?
It's really hard to guess. Much harder to guess now than it was a few years ago because broken record alert. NIL, you know what I mean? I don't know if he's going to be willing to come back if you give him a big fat NIL deal and he's not a projected first rounder, which as of right now, he's not on any of the mock drafts, even in the top 60 or whatever the number is. So, there's no telling, but if you assume he's gone, obviously you need somebody to replace him. It's so hard to project a year out because you don't know who's leaving, who might transfer, and you don't know who they're going to add in the transfer portal as well. So, projecting 2 years out now is pretty hard to do, but it'll be a bigger class, obviously, than this one, which will just be two or three guys.
Well, I mean, outside of the point guards and centers, Cam Ward, is he the only guy you think that they would just take no matter what and just figure it out later? Or is there anybody else who's kind of in that category?
I think they would take any of those point guards right now if they wanted to commit. I feel confident saying that. They would take Ward. I think they take Christian Gerdak, the big man from Gonzaga, who likes them a lot. Eric Ryby, the German import at Bullis, 7-footer, who they like a lot. There's a handful of other guys. Those are probably the top dogs. I'm sure I'm forgetting a guy or two, without the list in front of me. But any of those point guards, Cam Ward is definitely he's the guy. And hopefully and he flat out told Colby Jacobino, our
say that
basketball.
Say it again.
Oh my God.
Jacobino. He was on and he said it was Jacobino.
Sorry, I just needed to hear him try.
It looks like Giacobino. Jacobino. He told Colby.
He said it 6 different ways each time. It's beautiful.
Is Colby watching? Colby, come on and do a phonetic pronunciation of your name if you're watching right now. Type it in the chat.
We need to get him on. He hasn't been on in a long time.
All right.
Well, if we had anything to talk about with basketball recruiting.
Del Boca Vista, there you go. You asked for 25 basketball recruiting. There you go. One last chance, everybody. Type Matty Traore Mafia into the chat. One more chance here.
Larry saved
5
minutes.
On that one. In about 5 minutes, we're going to be doing the random number generator.
Jacobino.
Jacobino. That's what I said.
All right.
That's what
Good job. It took him 20 seconds to rev up and feel good about it.
Did he text you?
No, I was processing in my head so I could correct myself on the record.
Well, I
remember Jocks. Like this, we're talking about Jocks, and then Bino Cook, and then I'll be good to go.
Giacomino. What I love is that with the new system, it's still new for us. We got people from multiple platforms sending in messages to us. It's very cool. Two people from Twitch have typed in Mandatory Mafia. I've done no promotional Twitch at all, but they're watching,
That's
so
crazy.
that's cool.
That's
I love it.
Please subscribe to YouTube.
Yeah,
We
subscribe.
get money for that.
Yeah, subscribe to us on YouTube, though. All right. We're getting to that in 5 minutes. Before we do that, I have a Maryland Rankum for you guys. I will give you a list of Maryland-related items. You have to rank them based on some sort of criteria. We'll start with Jeff. Rank these pass catchers in order of biggest contribution for the rest of the season in alphabetical order. Corey Dyches, Ty Felton, Deshaun Jones, Caden Prather.
What am I ranking them in terms of?
Biggest contributor for the rest of the season.
For the rest of the season, I'll go Prather, number one. He's a little more dynamic. Ty Felton, all his stuff has come in one game for the most part. Then Dyches. Who was the fourth besides Felton?
Deshaun Jones.
Deshaun Jones. Yeah, Jayshon. You know what? I'm going to put Jayshon Jones second, actually. He's been really good, man. That guy looks, for a guy who's torn his ACL twice, to look at his best after 15 years is pretty impressive. So actually, I'll put him second, then Dyches, and then Felton.
Prather, Jones, Dyches, Felton. And by the way, if you guys in the chat, in any of the chats on any of the sites you want to contribute, throw them up in there, and we'll see if you guys agree with these guys when they do the rankings here. Paul, rank these bowl destinations in order of most likely. And I did not include Pinstripe or Mayo Bowl because they went there the last 2 years. So we'll exclude them. Quick Lane, Guaranteed Rate, Gator, Music City, Citrus, and Orange.
So from what I've read from some intrepid board reporters, it appears that Citrus is still pretty unlikely, even if you get the 3 New Year's 6 contributors. They might take Wisconsin or whoever's left over in the Big Ten West. So that's probably not it. I think Music City might be number one.
Okay.
Let's see. It was Music City, Citrus,
Gator,
Orange, and Gator. I don't even know I don't even know where the hell the Gator ranks at this point. I put no thought into bowl games yet because it's not. That's one of those things I figure out when it's like the end of October. But I've heard Music City might be the type of place that Maryland lands if they end up at 8-4 or 9-3 even. Music City, Gator, Citrus, and Orange. I don't think Orange is happening.
And then I did also include Quick Lane and Guaranteed Rate. Are they you're going to put those lower than the other 4?
Yeah, I don't even know what those are. Yeah, those don't matter. If we go to those, that's going to feel kind of sad.
Arizona and Detroit, right?
Yeah, Phoenix and Detroit, right?
Yeah, so I think Music City is. If they get 9-3, it feels really like that's the one. But
yeah, Music City or whatchamacallit. If Gator Bowl is right there too, that might end up, and that's an ACC team that could be fun depending on where we go, right? Or is that SEC now? I don't know. I can't keep track.
Jeff, rank these top 100 2025 basketball recruits in order of most likely to come to Maryland, all of whom have Maryland listed as warm on the 24/7 rankings. They can be ranked warmest, warm, cool, and not interested. So these are guys that have Maryland ranked warm in the top 50, and I had them in order of their ranking. Jordan Scott, 46, Nick Lewis, 53, Cam Ward, 65, Chance Mallory, 88, and Christian Gerdak, 91.
In terms of most likely to come, I'd say I'd probably go Ward, number one. I think they're in good shape with him. He told our boy Colby G that he is Maryland's number one on his list. After that, Gerdak, I know, is very high on Maryland, has been out to visit him a million times. They got a good chance with him. After that, man, I'd probably say Nick Lewis. I think that they have a solid shot, but competition's thick there. Kansas likes him a lot. You never like when that's the case. I don't know if he's their top priority. I know they like him. He's a little more higher profile guys than the other. 3B would be Chance Mallory, who, again, I think it's Maryland against Virginia. He's from Charlottesville, so that makes it a little tougher. But you'd think if it was all about staying home, he would have committed by now. And then Jordan Scott's really good, but I'm not sure that he's on the top tier with these other guys of their list. So I put him last.
Okay. There you go, Del Boca Vista. More 2025 recruiting for you. Paul, rank these long-term outcomes in order of most likely for Kevin Willard's tenure at Maryland. He's Bob Wade. He's Mark Turgeon. He's Gary Williams.
You're dirty, man.
You are a masochist. That's really good.
I'm going to get yelled at again. But until proven otherwise, it's going to be Turgeon, then Gary, then Wade. I don't think he's going to be Wade because he's not going to cheat and break rules, and I think he's a better basketball coach. So I think he'll be here for a while, regardless of what he does. But it's hard to predict that a coach is going to take a team to an elite level. It's certainly hard to bet money on or to really put yourself out for. I like him. I hope he pulls it together. Recruiting worries me. So we'll see with this 25 class, especially as much as 24 or more, whether he can really restack this roster and, hopefully after what's a good season this year.
It's hard to not do that order. Yeah. It's
right. I mean, we don't have enough information. Honestly, that's the thing you ask after like year 3 or 4, but
yeah, it's hard to not do that. But yeah, I wanted to make you say it. Okay,
yeah. I'm gonna get if he wins a natty at some point. It's like you said he'd be like Turgeon. You suck.
Yeah,
and that's what you said. You said Lorenzo Harrison was going to run for 10,000 yards.
He did, right?
He
Didn't he?
not.
It was close.
I still have that
close, like
here somewhere.
9,900 something, right?
We're including all the steps he's taken.
Yes,
still have it.
Jeff, rank these events in order of most preferred for Maryland Terrapin sports. Football wins a national championship. Basketball wins a national championship. Kevin Plank decides to retire from Under Armour and donate all of his money to the Maryland NIL fund.
In terms of which fans would want the most, or which would be most beneficial in general?
I guess most beneficial in general, but you could do whatever way you want.
That's interesting.
I mean, basketball national championship is 20 miles ahead. I've said it.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of the fan interest, it's so slanted you wouldn't believe it. I mean, people do care about football, but basketball interest is miles and miles beyond. So that would be a clear-cut number one for me. Football national championships, obviously number 2. I mean, that would be, right now it feels like just one win over Ohio State would be like a national. So actually winning one is so far beyond the realm of even.
I mean, it'd be the greatest underdog story in human history, wouldn't it? Like,
yeah,
but it's football.
Yeah, and then Plank and
that's third.
Yeah, it's true, but yeah, Plank's third, and maybe if he retires, they can finally switch to Nike.
But after he donates all of his money to NIL,
yeah,
they'd be set up. They'd be buying the best teams in every sport for
years. But if he's retired, maybe he's already if he's out of the mix at Under Armour.
They could.
The money would be huge. They need it, man. They're not. They have their NIL program is good. It's not like a joke, but some of these schools, good luck competing against Kansas or Villanova or some of these other schools in basketball or some of these SEC schools in football.
Well, they could with Kevin Plank's money.
Exactly. That's a good one for the message board. That would be interesting to suss out a little bit.
Okay, Paul, you become friends with Doc Brown and he gives you his DeLorean. Rank these options in order of most likely for you. Take it into the past and see your favorite eras and moments in history. Take it into the future to see humans progress. Destroy it so you don't mess up the space-time continuum. Sell the technology and use the money to enrich yourself and the Maryland athletic program, or 5 other if you have some other. Go ahead.
I'm so glad I didn't get that one because I would have gotten the options 20 minutes ago.
Can you email those options over for brother?
Take it to the
I'll
past,
stone
take it to
when
the
you do
future, destroy it, or sell it for the money. Those are the 4.
And this is what I would prefer. What I think. What I
would want to do. Yes.
I would sell that shit. I would absolutely sell it, and I would not give all the money to Maryland. I would keep it.
That's one. Okay.
I would definitely. Then I would go into the past because I'm a history nerd.
Okay.
And I also might be able to go back in the past and then like steal or win a bunch of money and then like bring it with me or something.
Like Biff?
Yeah. Do it like with a sports almanac.
Yes.
And then I would go into the future to see if we still have one, which we probably won't. And then I would just blow it up, I guess.
That's the last one. Okay. Yeah. Very good. All right. I do have buy, sell, or push for you guys coming up. But before we do that,
give the people the winner. You can't make them sit around for the whole thing.
We're going to do that. We're going to do that right now. Let me. I have to share. We're going to share. Gives me a second here. Okay.
We're proving this is a random number generator.
So
and not.
This is not the order. When I click one time, this order is going to change. Whoever's got a 1 next to them is going to get the 3 months. So I'm going to click in and click out of any random cell. The random numbers are going to change, and then the ranking is going to change. Whoever's got a 1 after I do this wins the 3 months. Here we go. It is Michael Vogel. And Michael Vogel is one of the – was Michael Vogel from –
Is he on Twitch?
No. Mickey Vages was Twitch, and Friesen Odin was Twitch. So Michael Vogel was on YouTube. So Michael, it is your responsibility to get in touch with us. Either write to us on the message board if you can do that. Send us a direct message. You can email us at imsradioims@gmail.com. You could send a message to us on YouTube. Any way you like, get a hold of us. We'll get you the 3 months. Congratulations to Michael Vogel. All right, last thing. Buy, sell, and I'm going to allow you to push if you want to because you do it anyway. Yep. So I'm going to call it buy, sell, or push. Here we go. Jeff, the Maryland basketball program. And remember this. You want to sell high and buy low, right? Sell high and buy low. Remember that before we get into this.
That's what I learned in business class, yes.
Right. The Maryland basketball program under Kevin Willard.
I'm buying. They're at the start of their upswing right now, or what you'd hope would be an upswing, what should be an upswing, despite some recent slowness in recruiting. So, yeah, I'm clearly buying. I think, if you're not buying, if the stock isn't going up the next few years, then something's gone terribly wrong.
Okay. Paul, the Maryland football program under Mike Loxley.
I am shorting it because I think that they're going to struggle a little bit next year with a new quarterback, whoever it happens to be. But then I might buy it back at the end of that cycle because I like the program trajectory long term. I think Lox is the right guy for Maryland at the right time. And I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. Next year could just be a little bit of a struggle because of quarterback, but long term, I like where they're going. So
I like that creative answer. Well,
I would sell if I'm sticking to the rules.
I got it.
But just for next year,
Highest point in decade plus, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're actively talking about a team.
Sell now with the idea that you're going to buy next year when they're at the nadir.
Yeah, or if I'm, if I'm shopping for a 401k for one of my children, I'm buying and holding it forever. But,
right. Yeah, got it. Okay, Jeff, Daryl Pines in regards to athletics.
It's probably a push. I mean, he's a huge upgrade over the previous guy who, as I've shared a million times, once asked a friend of mine to explain what a first down was during a football game, which says it all right there. Pines understands. He understands sports. He's close. I think has a really good relationship with Damon Evans. So yeah, I think he's the best.
It's not going to go up or down. It's good, and it's going to stay good.
I might buy because I think both of the major revenue programs are both on an upswing.
Yeah.
Basketball. Neither one of them is setting the world on fire, but collectively they're as good as they've been in a little while. So I'd probably buy.
Okay. Paul, Damon Evans.
I would probably buy as well. I think he's a guy who gets it in a way that we haven't had an athletic director in quite some time. He hasn't been perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but the things he's done around the football presentation at the stadium has been incredibly helpful and noticed, I think, by people who have been part of Maryland football for quite some time. I think he knows that he needs to spend on football to keep up with the Big Ten, but he also knows that Maryland basketball is what it is. He's going to get that basketball performance center done, which people have been talking about for forever, but he's actually the one getting the pylons in the ground, as he's been tweeting about recently. So yeah, I like Damon, and I don't think he's the type of guy who's leaving for another program either. He doesn't seem to be unhappy here. And from what I've heard internally, he would like this to be like a destination job. So I think he'll be around for a while. I'd buy. I'd like him.
We got a comment that supports you. Damon is miles better than Mumbles and Debbie Yao. Do you want to explain?
Without question.
Do you want to explain who Mumbles is?
We all know who Mumbles is.
Kevin Anderson.
Yes. Thank you, Howard Rosenberg, for the chat.
Yeah.
Kevin Anderson, yes. Nicknamed Mumbles on the Maryland 247sports.com message board. Okay. Jeff, football attendance. You so badly want to say bye, but you can't.
No, he doesn't. He's the sell it.
I know you. I'm saying you want to say bye, but you can't bring yourself to do it.
I have thoughts on this.
Do you want to take it, Paul? Jeff's not answering.
Like in terms of, so this is a long-term view, right? Not the rest of the season.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. I'm probably, I probably am buying, because I think even if they're not as good next year, and even if it hasn't been as good, the attendance, if the team's not as good next year, and even if the attendance hasn't been as good this year as it should be, it's still incrementally improving. The game day experience is getting better. People who haven't been to games in a long time are starting to come back more. Obviously, so much of it depends on whether you're winning or losing, so that makes it hard to answer. But I'm buying just for the fact that I think people are at least starting to show up and think more about coming back to games, telling friends to come back more. And like that Virginia game at the beginning, it looked not good. And by the end of the game, that was a really good crowd they had. But, that's with the caveat that if they go back to winning 3 games or 4 games in the season, that stock is going to be penny stock. Let's hope.
Let's hope it keeps going up. I'll take incremental improvement as long as it's improvement. I'll take that. And then if it increases, what did Frank Reich used to say when he was coaching the Colts? 1% better every day, and then after a year, those 1% add up.
The student attendance culture has gotten way better.
Better.
Student section is a million times better now, because these are
so good
students who come up and actually experience some winning. I want to
go sit in with the students during a game. That's what I want to do. I love that energy.
The team, before the past few years, the team stunk and the students didn't care. These students have seen a couple of years of winning and some decent games, and so they come out a lot stronger than in the past. So that culture is starting to grow a little bit.
All right, last one for Paul. IMS Radio.
Oh man, buy it all. We're going. Like I said, man, we just need like another 90 of y'all to subscribe to YouTube, and then we can really get this thing.
Why are they so lazy about subscribing? We don't charge anything for the show. We try to do our best for you.
It's
on a
free,
weekly
man.
basis.
And that's
All we ask-
I'll say that's the thing, man.
5 seconds. Go to our YouTube page, click subscribe before you forget.
I don't want to beg, man, but obviously Jeff has his business. This is related to the website. Larry and I do this for fun, man. This is the thing that we do. We put a lot of time into it. Make a little bit of change. It's a whole lot easier for me to tell my wife, you know what, you take the kids tonight because I got to go do this podcast thing, or I'm going to
make $3.
That's right. 3 whole American dollars, but it's $3 more than I had before that. So
yes.
It's
there's always the water sandwiches joke for Jeff too.
That's right. We got to upgrade to some peanut butter and jelly, man. It's that's it. We appreciate the help, and we have a very loyal group of subscribers and live watchers, and we appreciate you all. We just want more of you. That's all. More of you means more of us doing this stuff and more off the wall content, more things that aren't just the big show every week. So it makes us a lot of things easier for us. So,
and we do have a couple of special shows coming up. One we can talk about, we know we're going to be doing, and that is going to be for the Michigan game. We're going to do a pregame show. We're going to model it similar to what does Fox call it? The
Big Noon
or ESPN Game Day. We're going to model it after that. We're going to have a bunch of people up in the suites with us, and we're going to be pulling in some people there. We'll make an announcement who that's going to be later when we get them. We have another one coming up. It's a little bit of a surprise. Not official yet, so be on the lookout for those special shows and subscribe so you know when they're coming, and you can watch and join in with us and support the Terps with us.
Hey, make 100 fake YouTube accounts and subscribe to those. That works too.
Or we could do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to game the system here. We do not need to be honest.
We have done zero gaming.
Yeah, to this point, it's all real, but it doesn't have to be
all real.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
we could just do completely
spectacular.
Fake.
Yeah. They're real. They're spectacular. Yes.
Just get your kids to subscribe, get their kids' friends to subscribe. It's so easy. Then you can mute us, subscribe it, and you don't even need to be bothered. Just
Howard wants to know when you are going to start dating Taylor Swift, Paul.
Well, I'm well aware that my little tagline is raising questions that are already answered by the tagline. So,
for those listening on the podcast and not watching, Paul's headline on the YouTube says "Not currently dating Taylor Swift."
That's all. That's all the information you need. Currently not dating Taylor Swift.
I mean, it would be nice to do that. I mean, she's talented and pretty.
Future possibilities.
One of the wealthiest.
Or the past, Jeff. You know what I mean? Just saying at the moment.
I heard that rumor about you. Yeah.
At the moment, of course, Taylor Swift, I guess, would have been 10 when I got married. So maybe that doesn't work out so well. So don't show this show to my wife, I guess. Let's move on to a different topic. You want to end the show, Larry?
She never watches, Paul. Come on.
No, she never watches.
No,
she would be caught dead watching this show.
No. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We had a lot of really good participation from multiple streaming platforms in this show. That was very cool. From Twitch,
Twitch is where
Facebook.
is part of where the youngs are, right? So we need to get more of these football infatuated Maryland students hooked up with this, man.
Yeah. So thank you guys. We love it when you guys are participating. We're popping up your chats on the screen when we can, particularly when there's really good questions. So yeah, we love that. Keep joining us every Wednesday at 7:30. That's our schedule until a basketball game gets in the way or some other factor. We'll let you guys know that. But
basketball mile run is what, Tuesday night?
Oh yes, next Tuesday night at midnight.
Yeah, so.
I want to do that, but it's an hour plus. Even at that time of night when there's nobody, it's still an hour plus drive for me. After I'm not getting home till 2 in the morning. 3.
Yeah, the idea crossed my mind this year, but it's asking a lot, man. It's asking a lot.
I don't know.
One of these years we're gonna do it. We're just gonna.
I want to do
a
it
month ahead of time, and we're gonna
next year for sure.
Yeah, we'll get
every year's next year.
We'll get the staff in on it. I'm gonna bring a scooter that I can ride around for a mile instead of having to run. It'll be great.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. This has been IMS Radio. We'll see you guys next week.